Welcome to the final day of the Stepping into Freedom retreat at Ilkley. Yesterday we looked at the first 8 verses of the full Sutra on the full awareness of breathing, which Thay tells us, teaches us, is the foundation of meditation, along with the 4 establishments of mindfulness. I'm going to ask Susie to read the next 4 verses, if that's okay, and then I'll talk a little to them.
Can you hear me? Good, thank you. Breathing in, I'm aware of my mind. Breathing out, I'm aware of my mind. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I make my mind happy. Breathing out, I make my mind happy. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I concentrate my mind. Breathing out, I concentrate my mind. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I liberate my mind. Breathing out, I liberate my mind. He or she practices like this.
Merry Christmas. It's a special Christmas card that I keep with the recitation. Happiness is here and now. Did we just sing that? No, we didn't sing that, did we? So that's one of the Plum Village songs. Happiness is here and now. And that's, for me, an easy thing to do when I'm with friends in the practice. I have a few days away from my work and family commitments. It's easy to do. I'm held by the Sangha. As you know, I'm not in the best of health, but I feel very happy because I'm being held. There's a number of people here that I know and a number of people that I don't know, and I feel held, as I hope every single person in this room feels held wherever they are. However, in 4 or 5 hours, we're going to leave this retreat on Zoom. We're going to leave this retreat here, and we're going into a world where there's a great deal of fear, war, problems with the planet. A number of us are still coming out of COVID, and this is causing fear and unhappiness and sadness. There's bereavement, there's loss, and that's a fact. So how do we generate happiness in that world that you and I are part of? The full awareness of breathing says happiness is here and now. Happiness is here and now. If we come back to our breathing, if we come back to the present, it will help us a great deal. It's also important to think about the things that nourish you coming on retreat, being with friends and family, the food that we eat, being with Sangha. Being with Sangha is so, so important. Often I come home from work and I'm very tired and I think, shall I go or shan't I go? Shall I go or shan't I go? So important to go because I carry so much suffering in me, and many people, I choose it, transfer their suffering to me because of the work that I do, as many of you do. And so I must nourish myself, not just with the 2 or 3 retreats a year, but each week I must think of things that are genuinely going to cultivate my happiness. Having sovereignty over myself gives me happiness. Being able to smile gently, which tells me I'm having sovereignty. I have sovereignty over myself. If Murray were here now, he would say, think less and practice more. That's what my dear friend Murray would say. So you're not here, my friend, so I'm saying it for you. So do it. So do it. Think less. Think less. Practice more. We've been thinking and thinking and thinking about the challenges that we face in our personal, professional, active lives. And where has it got us? Perhaps a few steps forward. But are we doing it along deep practice? Conscientious practice? Are we? I don't know. But I have learnt when I'm facing tougher times than normal, then I practice more. I spend more time, I get up earlier and I practice my way of generating happiness and concentration, which is key. That's the second part of the verse, which we'll come to, is formal practice alongside informal practice. So bring more of these informal practices and formal practices into your life. So when I'm feeling tired, when I'm feeling disheartened, when seeds of sadness are coming into my conscious more than they normally do, I practice more. And I spend more time with Sangha and with friends that make me happy. Friends that can bring a smile to my face. Family members that bring a smile to my face. I was talking to, I can't remember who I was talking to, over the retreat. And I was talking about being at Plum Village. And this is another one of Murray's stories. He was saying, when the monks are not able to smile, you don't see them. Yep, they often go off. Yep. So I'm unable to smile now. I don't have sovereignty over myself. Code for I don't have sovereignty over myself. Yep. They might wander off. He told me, it was a funny story, it was related to him working in the kitchen on his own for about 200 people because the 2 monks had wandered off. I'm going to use that, I think. I'll use it with my wife when it's my turn to cook. So the monks aren't there. So be with people that make you smile. Yeah, I know a lot of people in this room, and you're doing challenging jobs. And when some of you have retired and are still doing challenging jobs, yeah, make sure you hang around with people that put a smile on your face, that people that inspire you, that people that build your joy and your energy up. Yeah, it's really important for me because of the work that I do. If I didn't, I'd have nothing to give. I wouldn't be able to listen to the suffering that I listen to every day. Well, 5, 6 days a week. I couldn't do it. I have to nourish myself. Really important. Please do it. Please, please, every one of you do it. Be compassionate to yourselves. The only way you're going to get happiness is through nourishment. Some of us, I'm quite a social chap, but some of us might get our happiness from nature, walking in beautiful nature. You don't just have to be with people. That might be your way. But know your way, and don't just write it on a bit of paper. Please do it. Please spend as much of your energy doing things which nourish you. And don't just think about it now, so it's a notion. Please do it. Actually do it when you walk out of this door. Make a commitment to yourself that I am going to generate more happiness in my life. And you know the way to do it. You've got the tools. So please do it. Because otherwise you're going to burn yourself out. I know that some of you that know me well know that I learnt the lesson the very hard way. It's essential. I've changed the energy there, so I'm going to invite a bell so we can come back. So Thay tells us that it's really important to stop, and we've done that, haven't we, over the weekend? We've stopped chasing. We've just sort of arrived here. And he says there's 2 types of meditation. Stopping, which he actually says, which is concentrating. In Breathe, You Are Alive and Heart of the Buddha's teaching actually use those words. I was looking at them last night. He says stopping is concentrating. So stopping is one way, and the other is looking deeply. Vipassana, some people talk about. And we know the methods. We spoke about the methods of doing that yesterday, so I'm not going to go over that. But when the mind becomes still and concentrated, we can observe things more closely. And that's really important. And we can liberate ourselves by doing this. We can liberate ourselves by doing this, by observing things more closely. Liberate ourselves from what? Liberate ourselves from what? What are we bound by? What are you bound by? What haven't you let go yet? What suffering is in your heart, in your store consciousness, that you haven't let go of yet? What are you bound by? Some of us know what we are bound by, but find it so difficult to change that we choose to continue to be bound by the unwholesome seeds, the experiences, and the suffering that we hold on to. And the best way to release and to liberate ourselves from that is stopping, in this tradition, is stopping and looking closely at it and liberating ourselves, Thay says, from what we are bound by. It's in Breathe You Are Alive, and it's in Heart of the Buddha's teaching if you want to go deeper into it. It's so easy for what we are bound by to be influenced by what we see in the outside world, what we hear in the outside world, what we consume in the outside world, in the lives that we'll be going back to. So we can do something about that, can't we? We can limit the amount of social media and news that comes into our front room. We can limit it. We don't have to listen to it. It isn't about shutting off from what's going on out there. I still listen to the news. But how much do we really need? How many conversations about these things do we really need is helpful for our own happiness, for our own well-being? How much discussion is helpful? Some discussion is helpful because there are many activists I know in this room. And boy, we need activists right now. But think about the quality of the discussion you're having. And think about how often you're having it. And think about how you're being informed. Right consumption is an important mindfulness training. And sometimes I consume more social media, more news, more conversation than is helpful to actually act. And definitely, it doesn't always do my happiness a lot of good. And once again, we can look deeply at that if we breathe and if we use right concentration. In the full awareness of breathing, we're talking about one form of concentration, which is selective concentration. So we're selecting to concentrate on one thing. In the full awareness of breathing, it's our breathing. When you read or attend the retreat on the Four Establishments of Mindfulness, it will be the breath, the body, the mind, and the objects of the mind. That's where our concentration will be. It will be on one thing, selective concentration. But when you go to the Eightfold Noble Path, we talk about right concentration, which has two forms of concentration, which is selective, coming back to the breath, coming back to the body, coming back to the mind, coming back to the objects of the mind, if we were to explore the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. But then there's active concentration. And I think we need to talk a little bit about that. That isn't spoken about much in Breathe You Are Alive, and not that much in the Four Establishments of Mindfulness. But in terms of the Eight Noble Truths, it is very clear that active concentration is important. Active concentration is being attentive to whatever is in front of you. Once again, going back to my dear friend and mentor Murray, that's what he'd say. You focus on what's in front of you. Yeah? So when I'm working, I use active concentration. So that means that I'm present. I'm present for the person that's in front of me or the job in hand. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not trying to rush off to my next appointment. I'm not thinking about the discussion or counseling I've done in the past. I'm with that person. Even if I know somebody's in seclusion or somebody's trying to do something difficult to themselves, I have to stay with that person because they're in front of me. We don't always do that. And I think it's important to raise that active concentration is very important too. And the way that we have active concentration is by coming back to the breath, being present. Yeah, because I want to make everything better, don't you? I want to make everyone better, everyone in the world better. But I can only deal with the person, the activity, the challenge in front of me. So please do that. And if you see your brain moving that way or that way, bring it back by the breath. Pause, pause, stop, bring it back. Just one more thing. Again, this is something I did say I'd integrate things that my mentor and my dear friend Murray would say if he was here. And I've written this one down, so it must have been important when I was thinking about what I was going to say. Just going back to the first verse Susie read about happiness. I think what Murray would talk about are the 4 points of preventing unwholesome seeds. Remember we talked about that yesterday and in the first retreat. Remember our seeds in our store consciousness. So Murray would talk about preventing unwholesome seeds that have not arisen from arising. So if we want to be happy, don't water those seeds if you can. For me, so just as a challenge to this, for me, I tend to work on the edge because I think that can improve my practice. So I go into environments that will water the seeds that I'm trying to transform into positive seeds. So I go into angry environments, I go into stressful environments, generally with a smile, in order that one, I can heal the environment, but two, that I can work with the seeds that will arise within me and still function. Does that make sense to you? However, Thay would say, prevent the unwholesome seeds coming up. If you're in that place and you know they're going to overwhelm you. I've got to the stage, I couldn't have worked in prison 10 years ago. I still had a fair bit of anger in me. I couldn't have done it. Does that make sense? Now, my mindfulness is stronger. I feel comfortable going into those environments. I sometimes tell the story, you'll laugh at this, of I'm an ardent football supporter, I'm afraid. I still haven't let go. I'm still bound. I'm still bound by a certain football team, I'm afraid. But about 20 years ago, I was a season ticket holder of this team. And I used to go with my mates who hadn't learnt about mindful speech and mindful listening. And the team that I supported at the time were pretty awful. They're one of the best teams in the country now. And they would use some interesting language, especially to the linesman and referee who always got it wrong. In the morning, I'd be practicing mindfulness, calming the mind. In the afternoon, my mindfulness wasn't strong enough, and the team I was watching was not very good. And, do you get it? So I think that's what that statement is talking about. If your mindfulness is not strong, make sure you don't water angry seeds. Help unwholesome seeds that have arisen. Help unwholesome seeds that have arisen, so they're there in your consciousness, to return to your store consciousness. It's the second stage of happiness. So, of course, concentration, breath, hold them, embrace them like you would your child or your grandchild or your nephew. And if you hold them, you open up to them, you look deeply at them with concentration, using your breath as a tool for that concentration, then they will go into your store consciousness smaller, and your mindfulness will become larger. So that seed of mindfulness will be larger, and the seed, unwholesome seed, will go down into your store consciousness as a smaller seed. Find ways to water the wholesome seeds in your store consciousness. I think I've spoken about this already. So make sure you put yourself in environments, but do it. It's so easy to nod, write a note, and then it goes to the back of your car or in your bookcase and you don't do it. So find ways to water the wholesome seeds. Spend time with family members that you love. Spend time with friends that you love, environments that you love. Do things that make you smile and laugh. Don't go and watch bad football teams. And nourish wholesome seeds which have arisen to remain in your mind consciousness. So when a positive seed arises, happiness, joy, equanimity, we'll talk about that at the end of this talk, then notice it's arisen and hold it there. What can hold it there? Yeah, your concentration, your mindfulness, and generating that energy in you that will hold that wholesome seed. Perhaps even go into an environment which will make it grow further. Spend time even longer in an environment that will make it go further. And that will counter some of the things that we're going to face when we go into the world, into the media and the news that we allow into our consciousness and our front room. It will allow us to be a little stronger. I'm going to invite a bell, and then I'm going to ask you to read for us, Susie. So just a minute or two. Volition. For the next couple of minutes, I'm going to sit with my breath. I'm not going to think about the Dharma talk. I'm not going to think about driving home. I'm not going to think about my breakfast or the past. I'm going to be here. Breathe. Last four.
Breathing in, I observe the impermanent nature of all dharmas. Breathing out, I observe the impermanent nature of all dharmas. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I observe the disappearance of desire. Breathing out, I observe the disappearance of desire. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I observe the no birth, no death nature of all phenomena. Breathing out, I observe the no birth, no death nature of all phenomena. He or she practices like this. Breathing in, I observe letting go. Breathing out, I observe letting go. He or she practices like this.
Thanks, Susie. So they are the last 4 verses of the Sutra on the full awareness of breathing. Using concentration, using mind consciousness, will allow us to touch the nature of impermanence. Thay been to a few retreats where Thay, thank you, Joan, for using one of your matches, lights a match. Can you see it on Zoom? Can you see this match? Oh, great, good. And talks about the notion of impermanence being the match and the flame being impermanence. Of course, he does it a lot more skillfully because he actually tells us the main core parts of the teaching. He uses a long match though, by the time by the time the flames got to his fingers, but he does use one of the, there's long ones, he uses one of them. So he says that the notion is the match and the flame is impermanence. But quite often we get caught with the notion of impermanence and we don't go deeper into impermanence itself, hence we suffer. So we end a relationship, we suffer, somebody dies, we suffer, we change job, we suffer, we get ill. I'm getting on a bit now, and believe it or not, I used to play on the right wing, not for City, but I used to be fast, and now I can hardly run. Eating less cakes would help, but even then, I can't run. I'm getting on, and a lot of us are caught with that of our aging process. Yeah, we can't do the things physically we used to do. We used to have very sharp minds, and now they're not quite as sharp. And that frustrates us. We can't let go of the past. Yeah? So we know the notion, we've got the notion of impermanence, the match, but we are not in tune with impermanence itself. So we come on retreats, no coming, no going, we sing lots of songs, we smile, we read the books, we have great discussions, but we are not there. We're not really there. So how do we truly touch impermanence? Not with clever words, not with the smile, by practice. Less thinking, more practice, as Murray would say. So yesterday afternoon, we touched the earth, didn't we? We touched the earth, and we both practiced the 3 earth touchings, yeah, which very much is about impermanence. There's connection in that practice, but it's also about impermanence. And when we touch the earth, especially if we are practicing the Tibetan style of prostration, which was demonstrated to us, then our head was on the same level as our heart as we touched the earth. We have to let go sometimes of our intellects, sometimes, not always, and just go with the practice. Hence Murray's words, less thinking, more practice. And when he's talking about practice, he means following the breath, walking, touching the earth. Touching the earth for me is one of the most liberating practices I have found. I do it most days because it transcends the thinking. It transcends it. And my belief is that will help me transform, along with the teachings, along with the Dharma discussion, along with the breath, along with questions and answers, which are all helpful, but it's so essential to practice. And when those difficult, challenging, unwholesome seeds come up, if we can, holding them, embracing them, and looking at their true nature, which is impermanent, which is empty. To talk about impermanence, Thay often uses the wave, doesn't he? He talks about the wave and the wave being part of the ocean. But when the wave rises and it becomes a wave, it forgets it's part of the ocean. So it begins to compare itself to other waves and thinks, am I bigger than that wave or am I shorter than that wave? Am I bluer than that wave? And then it gets to its peak and think that this is wonderful. And then all of a sudden, it starts to dive down towards the ultimate, towards the ocean, which it truly is part of. And it gets lost. It's so caught up in thinking that it is a wave that it grows fearful of joining the ocean again. Thay's beautiful teachings that he's offered to us are attempting to help us, if only we practice, to be at ease with the ultimate dimension, which we are all going to return to, that our friends and our family are going to return to. And he wishes us, while we are a wave, to transform our fear, about going back to the ultimate by teaching us how to live in the ultimate now as a wave. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the wave, then talk about letting go, which is the last verse, and then I just mention the 7 factors of awakening, because it is mentioned in Breathe You Are Alive, and I think in Four Establishments of Mindfulness. And then we'll have questions and answers, if nobody's willing to do mindful movement. Hey, you guys on Zoom have got off lightly. There might be somebody in Zoom there. Yeah, I'll be looking at you. I'll be coming up closer to the screen and giving you the eye. Okay. Yeah, just talk a little bit more about the wave, because I haven't spoken about desire too much. So Thay's having fun, isn't he, when he's talking about the waves, being different sizes and different colors and things. But sometimes he pushes it a bit further to link with desire. Yeah, because when we start comparing ourselves with each other, then that can lead to us comparing, contrasting ourselves with other, and desire takes over, doesn't it? Yeah, so I'm going to get the Rover 5. I don't know anything about cars, so please forgive me if you do. I'm going to get the Rover 5.4 instead of the Rover 5.3 because my neighbour's got a 5.4, that type of thing. That's a simple desire, isn't it? And how are you going to get that? How are you going to get that Rover that's 5.4 instead of 5.3? Well, the way I don't have an independent income, so the way that I'd have got it is by working harder, spending more time at work, just to get that. Didn't really need the money to put a roof over my head, or to feed myself, or to give my child a decent education. But I just wanted that 5.4, that Rover 5.4. Is there such a thing? No, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, does it? Oh. There you go. There you go. Okay, I'll keep with the Rover just to make a point. So what am I going to do? I'm going to work more. And this is true. This is true of Dene in his 20s when he came out of the army. From about 20 to my early 40s, this was Dene. So I'm going to push myself into jobs that give me the money to get the Rover, to get the house with the extra bedroom that I don't really need because of my desire. And that means I'm going to put myself under more stress. I'm going to spend less time with my family. As a younger man, as I've told you, as I've shared with you, I had a great deal of anger in me. And I'm not going to be forever watchful. And the anger is going to come up. Yes, I'm going to get the Rover 5.4. So in the 20s and 30s, when I was about 20 and 30, there would have been a Rover, wouldn't there? Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't learnt the practice, or my practice isn't strong. My wife asks me, can you do the housework? I blow up. That anger comes out to her because I have a desire for the 5.4 Rover to look good. Yeah, like the wave wants to look bigger than the other wave. And I'm using the Rover, but it could be anything. So what's that desire about? I have a desire to learn the Dharma because I think that will give me peace and give me happiness. I have a desire to love people I know and people that I don't know. I have other desires, but there are some desires that are going to damage me. Look very carefully at your desires, because they can turn around and eat you and eat your family if you choose to do a job that you can do, but it brings up all sorts of unwholesome seeds while you're doing it. So please take care of yourself and look deeply and use the breath. Use the breath. Use concentration to develop some peace and some happiness for yourself, for your family, for your neighbours, for your community, for the people that you're working with. The final thing, the final verse was about letting go. In some texts, letting go is the word letting go isn't used, and equanimity is used instead of letting go, believe it or not. Equanimity is one of the four immeasurable minds. Or Thay has a book called True Love. And in this tradition, rather than using the term metta bhavana, but a lot of you that have studied in other traditions will know, we call it love meditation in this tradition. I like love meditation. Not many Zen traditions use the word love. I think love's a beautiful word. So equanimity is key. Equanimity is very, very key. How do we get it? How do we get that level of equanimity? How do we get that level of peace? By looking deeply, by using concentration, by following the breath, by everything that Thay has taught us with the four establishments of mindfulness and the full awareness of breathing. However, it's really important to constantly look, constantly look at what is binding us. What's binding us? So, from being liberated, because none of us here are, or are we? Are you just keeping it under a bushel? So what's holding us? What's holding us back? What's holding me back? And the only way I can find that is looking deeply, discovering it, and letting it go. For example, a story that I've told a million times, but I'll tell it again, is when I used to go to my mates to watch the football, and it was bringing up angry seeds, I realized that I needed to let it go. So I gave up my season ticket. I gave up my season ticket for a couple of years. I lost a few friends that way. However, it just wasn't doing me any good. It had been so easy because initially I bought the season ticket because I thought it would make me happy. It wasn't making me happy. It was making me mad and angry. Now I can buy a season ticket because my team is Manchester City, which is one of the best teams. And anyway, but do you get it? Like things that we think will give us happiness might not be actually giving us happiness. Thay encourages us to live a simpler life, and is doing that so we can let go of some of our desires, the Rover 2.4, to give us that simpler life and give us some equanimity and some peace. And that's about it, I think. I think that's about it. Other than the 7 factors of awakening, I'll just list them for you. Mindfulness, investigation of dharmas with a small d, so that's what's going on in our life. Diligence, practice, energy. And with diligence must come ease. Otherwise we can get too tight with our practice. Yeah, that was one of my habit energies. So I used to practice a lot sitting on a cushion, but I did it with a tenseness. So if you're one of those folk that is very diligent in what you do, marry that off with ease. Otherwise you become too tight. Joy, that's a great thing, but there's an energy there. Remember, there's an energy there with it, which you have to watch for. Concentration. I think we've done concentration, haven't we, over the last couple of days? And then letting go. Letting go. That's the last one of the 7 factors of awakening. Okay, that's it.